Hey, so week 10 of the Curator Program. So we have a lot going on. The bounties are coming together and the spaces are starting to take shape. I'll show a little bit of the progress we've been making with the content and presenting it. But a few interesting updates from our end. So the first one is the leaderboard. So look out for some announcements. We'll be announcing the leaderboard later on. But this is how it looks right now. And a few notes on the leaderboard. It's a calculation of the total points that the curators received, and we're already starting to establish some leaders. However, one thing to take note is that it's a first round of the bounties, and it's pretty easy still to get pretty high up for people who are motivated. And it's essentially, one thing is to be able to just take on the bounties that you'd like and, and present the good data sets for them. But also, there are other ways to gain points as well, which is by participating in the community calls, right? And we will be looking to empower curators who are participating and contributing to those calls. So that's a big aspect there. And in general, being active, having good communication, being able to quickly respond to feedback and make adjustments to your data, to your work, showing that you are a real person, right? Ability to be on calls, maybe having a webcam, especially even having a well-made profile, sort of images and maybe some work experience, sort of well fleshed out information is always good. The point of the Curator Program is sort of to attract interesting and knowledge hungry people who appreciate knowledge, appreciate coordination around it, and empower them, right? So anyone who will establish themselves as sort of people who are able to not just to submit a bounty, but also to be a real contributor, a participant in the space. Those will be the people who will get enabled the most. So something to note there. And also we are here to help for everyone to thrive, right? So as long as people have the motivation, we will make sure that you'll be able to get a good spot in the leaderboard. So that's a quick update on the leaderboards. And also a quick note. So we have the editor team who are reviewing the submissions and they're assigning the points. And there is a little bit of a subjective sort of assessments that are being done, right? It's sometimes it's hard to exactly compare the two very different data sets across especially different spaces, which is normal in this type of project. What we want to express here, we are happy to review some of the bounty submissions if you feel like the points maybe are not exactly well attributed to the work that has been done. So we're happy to review it. But in general, I'd say it should be pretty good. We were following some standard guidelines on assigning the points. And I would say the best approach for a curator is, not to iterate as much on the same bounty to keep getting, some extra few hundred points for the improvement. I think it's better just if you have submitted a bounty, you got the points, the bounty went through. Think about like what's the next bounty, right? And this is something that we do want the curators to think about. What is sort of find a a good intersection between what you care about and what you have a lot of knowledge about, right? And there, for any of the priority spaces that we're working on, crypto, health, artificial intelligence, global affairs, which is coming up, if there are any specific topic there that you're especially knowledgeable, and if you're motivated to work on that, we are happy to set up some bounties that might be tailored for you. So just think through it, and we'll get in touch with you this week and work it out. So that's the update on the leaderboards. And I would like to do a quick overview of the current state of the spaces, right? So our editors have been working hard the last week to start consolidating and organizing all of the bounty data as it's coming in into a coherent sort of overview for each space, right? So for the artificial intelligence space, we have each space starts with the topics, and these are featured topics that the content is being worked on. We have projects that shows some of the featured sort of highlighted projects here. I can give a quick example. So we have Anthropic here as a project, and we have the country, the founders, funding rounds, some helpful links. Also, we have the models. So we are capturing the models and their capabilities, which is, starting to get interesting and very practical on the data that we have. We also have the news. And about this, I'll give an update a little bit later on today. But for some of the bigger projects, for some topics, and in the front pages, we are starting to publish daily news. So we'll let you know a bit more later on. So that's for the AI space. We also are starting to work with media. So this is a list of podcasts in the AI space, podcast episodes. We will be working to add more. So there's going to be bounties coming out for books, maybe documentaries, for any good media for any of the space, and even later for a specific topic. So that's one thing. We have the events. So events is something that we do want to start focusing also a bit more of our attention. This is a big, I think a big improvement for any space is to start organizing events better, especially the talks within those events. So for any of the most important people, and so people is another really big part of any space. So for example, here in AI, we have researchers, we have founders, we have CEOs. We'll think about some other categories that would be good, maybe thought leaders. And for the highlighted, for the best people that, sort of we find the most interesting people, organizing specifically each of their talks or the events that they went to, I think is a good bounty that should be worth quite a bit of points. And we have some research papers as well, which is I'd say still in process of really organizing everything well enough to start pushing well-organized data sets, but a lot of progress is being done. And research is something that every space also should have as a big tab with a lot of information about it. So in the health as well, we have topics, same as always, some highlighted topics that people are working on. For the healthcare, we have vaccines here, and we're going to have some additional data coming in. News, as for any space now, as well as the media, main podcasts for in the health space, and people as well. And the same with the crypto, highlighted topics in the front page. We have some of the highlighted main projects. People, so we have crypto founders, crypto researchers, crypto journalists. So this is, I would say, quite of interesting categorization of people already happening here. And we'll be working to set up some bounties that would have two different categories of bounties, which is one of finding large amounts of data for each person and just pushing it into Geo. So that's for technical curators, and also specific bounties for some high value, interesting people in each space, including crypto, where we would like a curator to maybe own one or two, three, maybe people and really perfect their page, make it as a proper page where we find all of the information about each person. White papers, media, and events right here. And for any of the events, we already start to have some data here, in which city it's happening, in which country, sponsors. So the next good thing is going to be here to start adding the talks that were happening here. So this is how the content is looking right now. So the editors are doing quite some work of consolidating. And now as we're starting to consolidate the work, we're starting to see what's missing or what's good next steps. And we're working on the next wave of bounties. We'll be working with the curators to make sure that each curator gets to work on the bounties that they actually care about. I think that's a big motivating factor. It's we're building a community here, and we're building the community of people who like to, who care about the content that they're working on, organize it together. So right distribution of bounties is an important aspect here. So that's the update on the content. We'll do some demos later on. But for now, maybe I'd like to give some stage time to Preston, and maybe Preston, you can give us some updates on the product improvements.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get into this. A few things I want to point out. So if you go to Geo now, here, I just requested to share my screen. All right, there we go. So if you go to Geo now, you'll notice that on all entities, there's this upvote, downvote option here. And so for that, you can upvote or downvote anything. This helps us deal with ranking. So this will designate what entities are going to show up first in search, what entities' names will show up if it's a multi-space entity, and how spaces are ranked. Right now, we have a naive ranking implemented. So the root space is the top rank always, and then there is a list of spaces from there on. But as we grow in number of spaces, we will be able to have the naive ranking. So we're going to leverage this upvote, downvote to enable us to do this ranking. So that's one thing to just keep in mind is you can now start kind of voting on the things that you find important, actually accurate, stuff like that. You'll also notice that on data blocks, there's this new option here, and that's actually going to be a sort. So you can see that there's a few different things. And here, let me go to actually a better one. If I go to the root space, there's this latest news data block here. And you can actually click on this, and now I can sort by publish date. So if I click it first, you'll see this arrow up. So that would be a descending sort, ascending sort, and then unsorted. And you can see that the data block is actually fully resorting when you do that. If you want to publish a data block programmatically and use this sort, first of all, if you click on any data block of this three dots here, you can click on view config, and that'll show you how the data block is actually structured, how the data block entity is actually structured. And you can see the filter for the data block here, but this sort property is the thing that was just added. So it's always going to be structured as just sort by, and then the entity ID or property ID you want to sort by. So this would be publish date, since I just sorted by publish date here, and then just ascending or descending. So if you wanted to publish a sorted data block programmatically, just make sure you add this sort property here. A couple other things to add is import CSV functionality is going to have the ability to pull in Booleans, and Booleans should be structured as anything truthy which would be like yes, no, or true, false, will all get rendered correctly. And then you can also import images now as well. I'm pretty sure that has been pushed through. If not, it will be pushed through very soon. I will confirm that right after this call and can send a message if it's not. But all you need to do to push images through is have the column be titled with image data or image type property, and then push in an image URL. So that's just any URL. If you just click view image, you should be able to see what that image is, right? So if you look at something within Geo, you can even do that and see where these are hosted. So yeah, if you right click on this and say open image in new tab, right, I can see this is the actual image URL for that image. So if I wanted to use this, I could just pull this image URL. But you can get it from non-Web3 sites as well, and it'll pull in the image. There's also been other improvements to import data or import CSV. So resolution should be much faster now and more accurate. So some people were having troubles importing very large tables and having it take a long time for those relations to all resolve, and then having to clean up a bunch of things that weren't linked correctly. So those issues should be mostly resolved. And if you keep running into anything like that, please ping me and let me know, and we'll get it cleaned up further. Another thing to note is I've been going through and incrementally removing duplicate entities. My script to do that had a small issue. So if you see something that's linked to like an unnamed entity, that should be cleaned up now. I just put something through this morning to clean that up. I'll also be cleaning up some duplicate properties in the near future. One thing to note there is some duplicate properties are published in people's personal spaces. So as I do that, I'm going to be merging properties to potentially different IDs, and I will potentially publish a repo to GitHub, including a script for some of you to publish to your personal spaces if you want to clean up any of the duplicate properties in your personal space aligned with the duplication that I've cleaned up in the main public spaces. And then also, if you notice that some entity types have a bunch of duplicate entities, feel free to tag me and I can clean those up as well. And then the last thing to note is I will be doing a walkthrough, essentially going from start to finish. I'm going to be pulling a bunch of baseball data from a source called RetroSheet. So they have a bunch of historical baseball data stemming from the 1870s to 2025. And I'm going to I've gone through, downloaded all this data, and I'll be using Claude to help me set up the ontology, set up the publishing scripts to publish the ontology, publish some test entities, and even developing a simple UI to render a simple baseball like app. I haven't really decided what the user features will be for that app yet, but essentially just showing that what it takes to to go from start to finish, taking a bulk data set, structuring it, publishing it, and then even using that in a different application, sort of like how we have built the podcast app out to build on top of the geodata, so we can do something similar with this baseball app. So keep an eye out for those walkthrough videos in the coming weeks. And if you guys have any questions on that, feel free to ping me in Discord as well.
Okay, thank you. The product updates are really coming together, and it feels like in the last couple of weeks, it's when the curators are really starting to get unlocked. It feels like with working on the content, so the power tools is really starting to take a really good shape. Bulk editing is huge. Like that was huge to like actually start working and directly on Geo. And once you're able just to click on a few and like whatever entities you need and add a relation or do a fix, that's really great. Okay, so thank you. And the next note, it's an update and announcement. Now, as you can see, in any space, so whether it's AI or health, we have a news tab. And the news tab now displays news that are coming out daily. And this is relevant actual daily news. That's where you can see it. So if you click on any of the news story, this is a geo approach to content, right? It's a knowledge graph. Everything is interconnected. Everything is an entity. So here's the news where every entity, every claim from the news is an entity. So let's say we have news about the Starcloud raises 170 million series. To build data centers in space. Okay, cool news story, by the way. So let's take a look. So here is a claim. We click on it, and each claim has at least one source. Usually we'll have many more. And so for the source is an actual article that we can go in and we can verify the claim. So this is an approach to news where everything that's being said in the news is verifiable, right? We also have a ranking working here as well. So if we see that some claims are not doing well, we can take a look at it. What's wrong? But overall, that's the approach, right? So and this works on every space now. Health also has its news that are coming out. So this is the approach. And as we know, Geo allows to have apps built on top of it, right? So for example, we already know the Geo podcast app, right? So here we have podcasts that are coming out on any knowledge, knowledge sort of podcasts. And then we have claims as well that we can take a look at that are extracted from every episode. And now we have the same for the news. So Geo News standalone app. So the content exists actually in Geo, as we showed you, but now it's going to be an app that you can just, for now, bookmark and follow the news like this. And so here is a few aspects that are unique. The way that we're doing it is, of course, the fact that everything is a claim and it's structured. Also, claims can exist across multiple different news stories, which is not how news usually work, but this is innovation that we are presenting. So basically, a claim is a context-independent thing, and if it's true, it can be in many different articles. And the more the claim is being referenced, the more eyes get on it, and the more maybe criticisms or opposition can come to it, and that's what we want. We want there to be challenging, of information on Geo, so that the best information goes on top. So that's one. But the other one is that Geo is a community, right? And each space is a community. So we want community to have some ownership of the news that are coming out. We have set up these pipeline systems that are producing the news, but the community is the one that sort of takes care of it, looks after it. So we will be rewarding this behavior from the community members. So if a community member in health space, for example, notices that maybe a claim came out that is in some way wrong, or maybe is not worded well, or maybe has no citations for some reason, like if anything happens that's off, we want the community members to flag that. We will be setting up a better system where we can anyone who is a member can directly just go ahead and just submit a proposed edit. For now, maybe we can just flag any news stories that you have questions about on Discord, and we will be tracking which community members are able to contribute to the health of the news that are coming out. And we will be rewarding that. So, very much everyone is welcome to participate. Maybe even if you see that there's some news that is important and is for some reason not coming out, that's another thing to flag, right? Anything that helps us to have an actually functional, good news app that could, be practically used, and anything that helps to participate in that is a good contribution. So that's the update on the news, and I'd say probably one of the best or most interesting specific apps that we will now be having at our at our disposal for using, and I think that this is something that can actually compete with our current news apps or diet that we're taking on. So some exciting stuff happening here. And for the content that's been added by the curators in the last week. So maybe I would like to give a little bit of stage time to Armando. And maybe Armando, you can give a quick intro on some of the content highlights. Also, some other editors, any editor that has some highlighted content that the curator has been adding that's exceptionally good. It's a good time to showcase here. And as well, if we will have any editors and any curators here as well who have good state of the content that they have presented in the last week, it's a good time to showcase that. So Armando, you can take the stage.
Hello, everybody. I will start sharing my screen. So we want to show the week 9 highlights. I will personally share this one from Federico, who organized a full timeline of enforcement from the SEC. We are using the very new feature of sorting, so we can make sure the highlights. We are sorting from the most recent to the first event here. And you can see that you have a complete timeline of all the enforcement actions from the SEC. All the news events are sorted, and they are all organized on the topic we were presenting. So it was a great work from Federico, who spent kind of lot of time to fix both his ontology, his title. At the last minute, I asked him to add a very important rule, which is that all the news events must be at the same time claim. So as you can see, they're all double typed, so all the correction were made by the curator. We start using, I show him how to use a tag in a way to filter, to have an alternative way to filter timelines and to set table. We could imagine here we can organize all some point all the enforcement action from SEC by quarter or by any kind of area we want to assign. That was from Federico. I would like to show some highlights from Maxims, who start changing all his code to be able to change the venue property that was a bit too broad for its usage. So it was changed for journal, events, and physical venues. So here you have a full list of journal which are part of the framework he's preparing to publish all these papers, the EI paper he was working on in his personal space. He will now publish them in the public space, where he will use tags to be able to define the era, the domain, and the concept. For the health space, I will leave the stage to the other editor because I am I am only working with Kevin here. We made some very good progress on. I can show you something about the progress made on the ontology for ingredients. We create a type ingredient with multiple property, and we are directly pointing to the national library. So you have like a source. The data is somewhere directly sourced, and we are trying to emulate the same ontology from the national library to keep the standard and to allow like a full catalog of ingredients and drugs align with all the US standard. So that will be part of the edit for which I was the mentor. I know we have more edits in health, in AI, and in the crypto space. So if Dan maybe want to take the microphone.
Yeah, happy to share a couple of strong data sets that were published. And going to start with antimicrobial resistance mechanisms. This was published by Ezra. Ezra did a great job, and this past week put some final touches into it. So you can see we have in this table showing the affected drug class, example pathogens, and mechanistic category. And if we click through to any of these entities, we see a description. That's something that can be built out further in the future. And that is where we're at with that type for now. And looking really good. And I'll move on to showing muscles, which this one's really strong. It has great covers. And if we click through, we can see some nice relations. And this is something that can be expanded further as well. We can have exercises that positively impact. We can come up with a property name for that. And look through to another. Yeah, some strong relations. And those are a couple of the strongest highlights for published data sets in the health space that I worked with this past week.
Yeah, looking good. Thank you, Dan. Do you have any other editor who have some good highlights to showcase?
I have a few submissions on this as well.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so on the health space, we got, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let me just switch that. Okay, so we got a few submissions. The first one is from Saroj. He published the health data sets. And he linked it up to some relations. So we have the data set providers. These are all health data sets. We have the providers. We have the associated conditions to the data sets. So if you have a condition, for example, maybe lung cancer, and you want to see all of the interesting data sets, you can search for that and find it through here. We also have the licenses in whether it's an open license or it's restricted for the data sets. We have the citation required property, which is a checkbox. So if you're required to cite the source of the data set in your own research or in your own publication, we have the URL to the data set, whether we have a property showing whether the distribution is allowed on the data sets. He's also linked it to interesting topics for the data sets. So a good submission has lots of relational properties, which is useful for the knowledge graph. The next submission is from Ala Boneka, and she worked on the medical data standards. She's also got interesting relations in here. She's linked the data standards to the topics, abbreviations for the data standards, categories, the function, also linked to licenses and the maintainers of the data standards. We have the WHO Monarch Initiative. Overall, another quality submission with relational properties to grow the knowledge graph. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, good contributions throughout the entire week 9. Do we have any other editors who want to showcase anything?
Ahmed, do you want to showcase the work from Dimitri? Is Ahmed, can you unmute? No, looks like
Doesn't seem like he's able to. Okay, so maybe this can be good for the demos. Do we have curators who have a bounty data that's in a good state? And if they want to do a quick demo, we can give some space for that as well. Doesn't seem like it. I think the editors did a good job of showcasing highlights. Okay, so I think this covers some of the main progress made in the last week. A few quick notes, maybe before we wrap up, I would add, so as we have now launched the leaderboard after this first round of the bounties, we are now reviewing the whole operation, the whole system, how it went, what kind of bounties were added, what kind of curators we have met and were able to onboard and work with them. And how did the points assigned to each curator reflect the work and the potential of the curator? So we will be making some improvements there. We will always be evolving and adjusting. And we're also now starting to see how the data consolidates. And some of the notes that I think, some of the learnings that we're taking in is having a good prioritization on what kind of data we want to focus on first, and at the level of depth. So what we would like to do, and this is something that we mentioned in the very beginning of the Curator Program, it is the prioritization of the high impact, high relevance content, right? So we want to be making sure that as we're launching the new bounties, the topics that we're working on would be the topics that are the most relevant, the most practical topics for that space now, right? So for AI space, for example, I think agentic AI is an absolutely huge topic that could have many bounties just for that. Well organizing and enriching projects with actually deep, valuable information about them. Like one project could carry a couple of separate bounties. For example, Anthropic, Perplexity, XAI, Google, OpenAI. These are some of the projects that should have very fleshed out pages with multiple tabs. We would need to know what are the models, what are the news, we might want to start organizing claims about the projects themselves, like a deep understanding of the teams that were working there, history, funding information. So that's a huge sort of aspect. People as well. So just the people will have a bunch of bounties to organize the people and also to capture the right information about it. So that's huge. Media is going to be another topic under which we're going to be launching bounties. So we should start capturing information about the relevant and best books, best maybe blog posts, best articles, best documentaries about, for any space, but also it could be a more specific bounty. So for example, okay, so what are the best books in AI? That's a good general bounty, but maybe even what are the best books specifically about the agentic AI. So that could be an example where we could have a deeper dives for the curators to go into. And the only one thing to consider when the bounty is wide and it's sort of, we want to have a lot of information about a lot of things. So then we kind of expect, logically would expect like it's, the data would have a certain level of quality, right? A certain level of depth. Like we have like a bunch of properties that can be captured fast. But if a curator is doing a deep dive on 3 projects, let's say, so then the expectation of what we will see on those pages rises exponentially as well. So it's good for each curator to really understand their best skill set and how they can contribute more. And this is something that we will want to communicate with curators directly. We'll be sending out a new form. Where we will ask the curators of some of the feedback about how the bounties and the program went so far. What are some suggestions going forward, and especially what kind of content they want to work on, and we'll work with them directly to set up the right bounty. So please start thinking about that. Another thing is that it's important for the participation in the bounties, which is it's not just the submitting the data sets. It was kind of the first, this wave of content was kind of about that. But we're transitioning into a much more complex and rich way to participate. Being in the curator calls is huge. And if you're able to participate in them well, right? If you can articulate your ideas, if you can, critique something that's happening there well, if you can, do good demos, that's is something that's going to be rewarded. Also, just a reminder on a few basics for some good extra ways to gain some recognition and empowerment. It's to look, and feel presentable, right? So the better the profile looks, if you have social media, if you have some clear information about yourself, especially, for example, a real name accounts will always be much more promoted, because it's so much easier for us to see that, okay, this is a real person that we want to invest time in and really build it up. And because part of what we're doing is we're building people up, right? Like working with knowledge graphs is it's a skill as well as, as some other things. So, and we have a big team here who's been working on knowledge graph for a long time. And we want you, the curators, to start feeling, good with actually working with the knowledge graph, which is to mean start understanding relations, not just about the relational properties, but how can we actually leverage relations to cite the data that you're working on, start understanding ontologies, the types, data structures, and how to really structure that content. So some of the curators we met already are actually really good at that, which is really promising and exciting. Some seems to need some help, right? And so this is one thing that I would like to also mention for the curators. In the beginning of this program, right? We're now at the week 10. In the beginning of this program, we have heavily relied on our editors, who are mentors, to mentor every curator and help them, sort of handhold them throughout the entire process, which we've been doing. But there is a lot of curators, right? We have hundreds and hundreds of curators in the program, and we want to start transitioning a little bit towards a more self-sufficient way to participate. So we will be working quite a bit on improving the documentation. As you know, we have the education content. If you go to the Geo space, we have on education tab where you can look up how to use properties, how to decide on the type, how to publish data. We will be making improvements there. We'll be working on tutorial videos, on some short notes on how to use the product, how to structure the content. And so mostly we would like for the curators, if you want some help or have some questions, the best for that right now, it is community calls. We have a community call for each space once a week. So if you can do your work as much as you can with the documentation that's there, with the resources that you have, with LLMs, and present as much as you can, make a list of your questions, make a list of your ideas, present your data, and the community calls is exactly your time to shine, right? The people who will shine through these calls, those are the people we will enable, right? So if you bring the questions, bring the ideas and the content, and we will review, we will answer, we'll work with you. The mentors will still, we're on Discord always, but we do want to have a bit more structured way to help you at this point. So this is something to consider. And also, if any of you will be having any trouble finding, for example, some information, that's on us, right? So it's a good feedback. We have a feedback channel on Discord. If you cannot find some information, actually let us know, right? Because we need to make information easily findable, and we need to make it easy for you to actually be productive without too much handholding. So we'll be working to improve there, and we'll ask for the curators also to take full leverage of those materials that we'll be releasing. So,
Arturas, can I
Yep.
have the stage maybe for a minute or two?
Yes, please. Ahmed is one of our mentors and longstanding editors. Ahmed, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I just wanted to showcase about this work this week by Dimitri Musica. He likes to call himself Musica. This is a very good example about how a curator can pick up the work of another curator and add his perspective or add his point of view on it. So I would like to go here to full screen. So this was the initial bounty was for the blockchain networks, the top networks. So each of the curators added like 50 networks, different 50 networks. So what was different is that when he saw the TPS, he was discussing with me about that there are two different data of the TPS, like the maximum recorded ever recorded for any network, like the TPS, and the theoretical TPS that usually the networks publish that they are aiming to reach. So he was having the idea that we add both of these details. There is something like I just saw it a minute ago that they will, yeah, this is it. So maybe we should put them together near to each other. So like in the example of this is first network dimension, you would see that there is a huge gap between both of them. Like the theoretical that the network was announcing was 6,000 TPS per second, while the maximum recorded was like 50. So this is a
Okay.
very important data to add. Also, he was asked about other details, but one of the properties that we are now working to add, that he asked for also, was the active users. And he also was mentioning that there are some of the data that are dynamic, and he was asking that it's not, maybe it is really hard to add any dynamic data, so we agreed that we will not add it.
Yeah, so we have some good guidelines on that in general. So
Yeah.
if you are a curator who is not technical but is an expert in the field, right? You're an expert in AI, you're an expert in health. So the properties that you should be adding should be the ones that are reasonable to maintain, right? So if you're adding some properties that will change in next week, if no one's going to update that property, we're going to have inaccurate information on Geo, which we don't want. Like, we don't want that to happen, right? So
Exactly.
if you're an expert in the field, like your best contribution is, okay, what is some of the more static, high quality information that I can add? And mostly what you'll be thinking about is not what kind of cool information I can present, but what properties I can leverage to organize the content that I'm adding, right? So what kind of smaller lists I can make. So if you're adding some projects, okay, so maybe I can add the products that they provide or services that they provide, right? Maybe I can add in what industries they participate or in what events these projects, are represented, or which events they're sponsoring, right? So that's the type of information that you can be adding, right? If you are a technical curator, so that is a entirely different skill set, right? And for a technical curator, that's actually a good challenge to take on. What kind of dynamic information I could be adding to Geo that I can actually upkeep? And we can have bounties that reflect that work.
Yeah, and that's why exactly that we decided or agreed and on the maximum recorded TPS instead of the actual or real time TPS, because it was dynamic. So I just wanted to add that he added a different perspective, and we wanted to highlight his work because it was intensive work, honestly. And thank you so much
looking
for
great.
your time and for him.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, this is great. Yeah, so some bounties are coming together now that clearly show a really good work that's been done. Large data sets, well organized, real data, interesting information captured within the properties. So yeah, that's a good example right there. Okay, thank you, everyone. I think this is a good way to end the call. So as always, the action continues on Discord. We have the Discord channels for each space. We have the discussion channel and the feedback channel. Please participate, please be active, and see you around in the community calls later this week.